inside the floor. Turn him over again. Booker scoops it up. Booker brings the boom.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the NBA Hardwood Show. It's Mangone, it's DC. We're breaking down today's 6-game NBA slate. It's not a marathon tonight, it's a sprint. Lock will be 8 p.m., right? Once 8 p.m. hits, everything is done. We do have Big T and JSU. I don't know if one of them is joining us. They are on the NFL show talking winners there. DC, he already gave you winners on Wednesday, I believe, with Rubio. So be sure to check out that show. But DC, how are you doing over there?
Doing great. Friday afternoon here. Happy Friday to everyone. I know if you're, a degenerate, no kids like me and Mangone, Friday afternoon doesn't mean as much, right? To us, Mangone, when the grind just never stops. The one time I had a normal job for like 2 years, man, did I love Friday afternoons when you knew you were going to be free for a couple days. So I'm sure plenty of people watching the show happy it's Friday. And I am too. Good slate. I'm happy it's a quick one, right? 6 games in the span of an hour. Get in, get out, and hopefully pick some winners. So, yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, the best on Fridays when I worked my sales job that I worked was once I hit lunch, I was like, oh, yeah, we're not doing anything the rest of the day. We're just straight chilling. Like
I felt like that in school, too, getting out for Friday for sure.
Yeah, so definitely how it was back then. We're grinding, though. We got tons and tons of winners to bring for you guys. Obviously, a jam-packed weekend. The trade deadline was crazy, of course. And we got the NBA All-Star break coming up soon, which that'll be nice, too. Get a nice little break from all the action. I'm assuming, will you be in the hockey streets, DC, or are you going to just take a complete break?
That's hard to say. I could see going either way. I have played some hockey this year. I will say I think it's fair to say no success in the hockey streets. The tickets that I've won, it's that type of sport, highly various, right? If your line doesn't score, it's just not going to happen for you. But maybe I do love playing DFS, but I like taking a couple days and getting out in the wilderness and stuff too. So haven't decided yet, but I assume, Mangone, you'll be in the hockey streets.
I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Maybe I'll hang a picture frame. Who knows? Maybe I will. Maybe I won't.
I feel like you got to go one way or the other. Like you're playing hockey all through the break, or you're just taking a minor break. One way or the other.
I still TBD. I don't know exactly what I want to do yet. So we'll have to see what I decide to do. We're here to break down the NBA, though, for you guys. And I'll say this, DC. I pulled up the slate, and I'm playing what I normally play. But when I looked at it, I basically said to myself, this slate is absolute shit, right? It's not a good one. It's a bad slate. But, hey, there's money to be won, which I said last week as well. Last Friday, I said, hey, I think these values are garbage, not good, and I had a good day. So I'm looking to implement a very similar strategy to last week. You look at every single game, and I'll just run through it quick. Cleveland against Washington, obviously going to be an absolute disaster. San Antonio, who's now, a pretty well-equipped starting 5 against the Charlotte Hornets, who just fire-sold everything. You got tons of news, like the chat just said. Yes, you're right, Stack, relax. Tons of news, of course. We got Milwaukee and Atlanta. It's not like Atlanta's very good, and who knows what Milwaukee's doing with their news. The Brooklyn Nets, who are a disaster, going against the Miami Heat. The Philadelphia 76ers and the Detroit Pistons. And honestly, Philadelphia is hot garbage. Yes, they do have some of their guys back, so maybe they're a little bit different. But that's like the one game that looks sort of competitive. And then you have Toronto and Oklahoma City. So a lot of really good teams and a lot of really bad teams going up against each other. So I'm curious what your overall thoughts are when you looked at the slate, because that's kind of where I was at.
Yeah, obviously, frankly, most NBA slates are kind of a shit show these days. Doesn't matter what day it is or how many teams are playing. It's just the way of the NBA right now. How many players sit out just is what it is. Of course, tonight is, an extreme example of that. Obviously, the day after the trade deadline. And then, like you said, Mangone, we've got several teams, like several of like the true tanking teams, right, are on the slate. I mean, I can't believe what the Wizards ended up with. It's like the place that you ended up with for veterans on bad contracts that nobody wanted. They got Marcus Smart, Chris Middleton, Malcolm Brogdon, and then I guess they're led by Jordan Poole. Like, man, the Wizards, just a disaster of a roster. Are those guys even going to play, Middleton and Smart? Probably not. Probably just going to sit out the rest of the season, I would imagine. But yeah, we saw, as happens every year in the NBA, the good teams, most of them got better. And then the bad teams just completely went in the toilet and just have nothing left. So that'll be the kind of the story of the NBA these last, couple months of the regular season.
Yeah. P-Lally with a funny point. The only reason why it doesn't look like that is because the doorknob, right? I guess you can make that case.
Yeah.
It looks
a little drab here, the duel. We need a little color from Big T or JSU here.
Yeah, it actually looks really funny right now. I normally have that door against the wall, and it's not normally how it is, but I had it closed the other day, so I just left it out. But all right, ugly slate. Let's start with the Washington Wizards, and I'm with you, DC. Like, I'm not expecting Middleton and Smart to play that much this year. Like, I could see Smart maybe. Like, he's the one guy I could see kind of like maybe they try to grind it out with this team, but I definitely think they're going to monitor Middleton. I don't know what they're going to do with that situation. But we got, Jordan Poole, we talk about him and his upside. I want Jordan Poole in matchups against like the Brooklyn Nets, right? I know he played Brooklyn Nets the other day. How did he do? He got 36 DK points, right? Not saying that's a winner, right? But that's not terrible. I want him in those kind of matchups. I don't want him in a matchup against Cleveland, right? Not an ideal spot. We do need Malcolm Brogdon news. He is questionable. He will be someone that pops up as a value for sure in projections at 4.9K. Not saying you should play him. I'm just saying that's a decision point, right? That'll be something you'll have to make a decision on. Say, no, he will gain ownership. And then I'm just curious to see what the Wizards starting five is going to be going forward, because that might tell you a little bit of what their plan is. Like, is it going to be Rashawn Holmes just every single night at the center position? At 3.5K, that price will just go up, right? So there are plays we have to kind of consider here on the Washington side. But I'll admit, I'm hoping I don't have to play too much of it. That's kind of my hope based on how some of the news shakes out. And then the Cleveland side of the ball, you could make the case that, hey, this game's going to blow out and you can't play these guys. But I saw people saying that the other night, and then Evan Mobley broke the slate with 50 in one half, right? I don't think these are guys you can completely X out, like I kind of said with the Celtics yesterday, but to the point that, you kind of said, I think on the show, was basically, you're probably not playing many of these guys, Mango, and that's right. I'm probably not playing many of these Cleveland guys. I don't love Donovan Mitchell at 8-6 and Mobley and Garland. Like, I'll keep them in the pool, but these are not guys I want to be extremely overweight on, if that makes sense. Of course, they are missing DeAndre Hunter and, of course, Karis LeVert, which that will open up the opportunity for who? Ty Jerome, right? Ty Jerome has been kind of a darling for this Cleveland team for the past 3 weeks. I assume that continues, and I assume that's one reason why they moved on from Karis LeVert to grab a DeAndre Hunter, who makes a lot more sense for their team. So for me, value-wise, Ty Jerome looks really strong, and I really want to stay as far away from Washington as I can, but I got to see what the lineup is and what they do with some of this news.
If you sort by value over, on SaberSim or whatever projections you're using, at least SaberSim has all Wizards at the top. 4 of the 5 top players right now, according to our friends at Saber, are Wizards in terms of value, which Holmes, Vucevic, Tristan Vucevic. They've got Carrington, Keyshawn George way up there. I get it, but man. These players feel like they don't feel that secure to me. I know they're just kind of down so many dudes that you're going to have to play some Washington. We have no idea what their starting lineup is going to be. Yeah. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if from now to the rest of the season, Washington never repeats the same starting lineup. It's literally different every single game. I will say if Vucevic starts, I think he's interesting. He's been fairly productive, looks okay out there. He's a flat 3K. They don't have a lot. Obviously, if home sitting would help that, but he's one to watch. Anthony Gill just absolutely cannot play. He's just So I think Vucevic is interesting if he does get the start. Jordan Poole, what was your verdict on him? You going to go down the Jordan Poole train today?
I would rather play some of the cheap values, and
yeah.
I'll mention this though, DC, because I think this is a good talking point. I counted 10 guys that could possibly be available, right? Jordan Poole,
That's what really matters is how many dudes are available.
Yes. And I was going to cut you off and go through it, but let's just go through it now. So Poole, Coulibaly, Brogdon, who is questionable, Kispert, George, so we're at 5, Holmes, Carrington, Reggie Jackson got waived, Champagnie, Anthony Gill, who is available. Then you got Davis got traded, Bagley got traded, right? And then you got Vucevic, and then Cisco got waived. So you have 10. But the key is if all those questionable guys are in, now they definitely have 10. If they lose 2 of the 3, then it's an 8-man rotation. They lose all 3, which they won't. But if they do lose all 3 and one is maybe just a surprise active just to have an active roster, then you're down to 7 guys, and this will change the conversation. So 10 versus 9, 8, and 7 will change the conversation on the Wizards.
100%. If you get down to 7, and we have seen that, I think, in the past.
We have seen it, yes.
You just have to play everybody, Like, you just have no choice. And they're always, like, the cheap guys, too, right? Because it's, when you get down to 7, it's because you have all shitty players remaining for the most part. But, yeah, so we'll see with Washington. You're going to have to play. I mean, I guess if they have 10, maybe you could get away with a full fade. But I think more than likely you're probably going to want to play 1 or 2 of them at least, right?
Yeah, so my take is I'm hoping they have 10 because I don't feel like I have to load the boat on the Wizards, right? I feel like I can kind of limit and maybe play max of 2 or 1. Not saying I'm going to do that for sure in the app though, but like if I fire up my teams and I see half my teams have 3 Wizards, that's not happening, right? I'm not signing up.
I mean, we could call a spade here. Like playing if the entire slate is determined by the Wizards guessing game, right? Trying to get like the 4 or 5 Wizards correct. Like that's not that fun of a fun way to play. No. It's just not. We'll be playing anyway, but it's not ideal. I will say Cleveland, man, I mean, they're projected to put up 127 points in this one. It's the Wizards. Cleveland. I mean, maybe their defense won't show up, but they're going to put up a lot of points easily against this Wizards team is so bad that I totally get where you're coming from because this game could easily blow out. You don't know. These guys might not get their minutes. And I do agree that we'll probably get a couple of busts here among the Cleveland guys, but man, like they're going to be super efficient while they're out there. So do you have a favorite Cleveland if you're just trying to play one? For me, I think it's Mobley, who it often is with Cleveland. I mean, Washington just has no answer for him whatsoever, but it could be any of them, obviously.
I just think it could be any of them. So like in these situations, sometimes I just look at like what I think their projected ownership is going to be when I'm MMEing. So if we look on DraftKings and look at some of their ownerships, we got Mitchell at 19, Mobley at 8, Garland at 6, Jared Allen at 8, right? Like some of them just cool with matching the field, or like I'll either go a little bit overweight on one and under on another just so they don't kill me, right? That's kind of some of the ways that I handle it. I don't want to have like 50% of these guys just because I get a little worried about playing the guessing game wrong, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What Jerome and Strus? I don't know if I'd play them both together, but do you have a preference between those two, Jerome and Strus?
My preference is definitely Jerome. I mean, could you get away with it? Yeah, especially in a competitive game, but I don't think it's necessary. Someone's asking Jerome's ownership. I'm seeing on Sabre, he is the second highest owned Cav. Mitchell is at 20% and Jerome is at 17%. So that's the ownership on Jerome. I don't think it gets out of control, but I do think he's clearly the best Cavs value. I'm sure you agree with that.
He seems like really these types of backup point guards that are going to get minutes, that are in a good matchup, that are good players. They make for, I think, pretty solid plays, and I think that's true of Jerome tonight. I'm in on him for sure. My favorite Cav.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense for sure. Preference on Washington, I'm assuming Holmes plays. if he plays, I really like Holmes. If he doesn't, I like Vucevic. Like he's just like probably a stone lock, right? Because he's the only big man actually there. So the center values are clearly the best ones, and we need starters. I assume like a Carrington at 3-3 or a George at 3-8. I assume they're going to go younger with a lot of their guys. My assumption the starting lineup is going to be Poole, Coulibaly, with one of George and Carrington, maybe both. Could just see it being one, and then if they only go one of them, they might go Kispert or Champagny as the other. Likely keep Kispert off the bench as like this ball handler shooter. And then it's one of Vucevic or Holmes. So my assumption is the lineup is one of Holmes and Vucevic. I think they go Carrington and George, and then they go Poole and Coulibaly. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. What I really hope happens, I don't think it will, but I hope, is that Holmes is out and they start Anthony Gill, and I hope people play because he'll play like 7 minutes, and then I get Vucevic at the lower ownership, right? That's what I'm hoping is going to happen, but I don't think it's all that likely.
Yeah, and we could discuss ownership on the Wizards right now. So at this time, Holmes 37%, Carrington 35%. Who I think is the better play over George if I had to pick. George 3.8K, he is 28%. Poole 27, Vucevic 22, and then Coulibaly 21. So I do think we agree you have to play some Wizards, but you got to figure out what's the right amount. And like I said, I'm praying 10 Wizards are available. That way I can kind of pick and choose some Wizards, but I don't have to play like 3 or 4. I don't want to be playing 3 or 4.
So I'm good with, assuming he plays $3,100 Champagny, feels fine to me. Like he's going to get some minutes. He's a shooter, and he's super cheap, right? Carrington at 3,300 has to be good, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to play Jordan Poole because there's just so much uncertainty here that he's the expensive one. Give me the cheap dudes. They can hurt you less and help you more.
That's what I always do in this situation. I look at it and I go, do I really need to play the expensive guy that if the game blows out, which I think it blows out, he's not playing in the fourth.
There's so many ways it can go wrong for Poole. So many ways. Correct.
And at the price, it just doesn't seem necessary. So I'm kind of in that camp. Sounds like we agree a lot on this game and how to attack it. Any final thoughts there on that one?
No, I do think one of the Cleveland stars, whether it be Mitchell, Garland, or Mobley, or even Jared Allen, plus Ty Jerome, I think makes some sense. I think one of those guys could get there, maybe even kind of a blowout type script, and then Jerome could kind of clean up in that scenario. But I wouldn't overextend beyond that.
Yeah, I am absolutely praying that there's 10 guys in. Please just play all you Wizards. Let's have 10 of you so it makes the slate a little more kind. That way I'm not firing up Wizards left and right. Let's get to the Spurs and the Charlotte Hornets. Wemby, 11K, obviously an expensive price tag, but dude, the matchup against Charlotte is incredible. Right? Like I forget who it was the other night. I want to look because I remember seeing someone was like absolutely nuking against Charlotte, and I was tilted because I was like, why did I not even consider him? Oh, you know who it was? And I know Giannis got ruled out, right? But it was Brook Lopez. I saw early on, and I was like, shouldn't I just put this guy in my pool? Now, he didn't end up actually crushing, which is funny, but he was like off to like 10 points right away to start the game. And anytime there's a guy against Charlotte, you have to consider him. That's a center. So Wemby, obviously in play. LaMelo Ball, he attended shoot-around, so it looks like he is going to play in this game. Dalton Connect and Nurkic, they are both questionable. We'll see if they end up playing in this game. I'm assuming even if they play, it's not going to be something I care that much about, right? I maybe care about how it can affect everyone else, but LaMelo Ball is already going to affect a lot of these guys, right? Like Nick Smith Jr. is 5'1" now. We're clearly not looking at him. Josh Green, 4'5". I don't like playing him ever. Diabate, of course, we're probably not playing him unless he's somehow starting and there is no Nurkic. KJ Simpson at 4'3". We're not playing him with Ball back, right? So we are not dying to play Charlotte Hornets right now, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I do like some of these Spurs spend-up options. Spurs went to a little bit of a tighter rotation. If you look last game, their rotation was only 9 guys, which that's pretty encouraging. Those 9 guys, and I'll kind of talk about it because I think this is important for going forward. Fox played 37 minutes. Barnes, 23. Vassell, 33. Paul, 30. Wemby played 31. I know he had a little bit of foul trouble at times, but he was okay. Champagny, he played 22 minutes. Socan, 26. Castle, only 20. He's not in the starting lineup anymore, which is important. And then 15 minutes for Keldon Johnson. So, TC, that's kind of the minute allocation. I think it's going to take us off those bench guys, and we're really just going to look at the studs, right? I think it's Fox, Wemby are the two key guys in this game to like on San Antonio.
Yeah, I mean, Fox opens with a bang against, in that first game against Atlanta. 37 minutes for Fox, 58 fantasy points. Honestly, I didn't even really consider playing him his first game with San Antonio. I thought they might ease him in a little bit. I think he was an AP score, so shout out to the people that did play Fox. Wasn't me. He was fantastic. Good call there. And, I mean, if he did it the first game, I kind of assume that that's going to be the plan the second game, right? Not that things always go the same, but it's a new role, obviously, for Fox, moving from Sacramento, where he's got to share it with Monk and DeRozan and Sabonis. And I know, like, CP3 is still – the point guard, but like if you've been watching the Spurs, like CP3 takes like a very much a backseat offensively. I guess he can orchestrate things, but he does not want to score. He doesn't want to shoot. And so you start Fox alongside him, and with the gravity that Wemby has, right, pulling people out of the paint, like it's no surprise that Fox crushed, and I think he could be really good with Wemby and the Spurs team. So I kind of like Fox at 8,500. It feels like chasing a little bit, but I'm fine with it. And I like Wembanyama. And honestly, I wouldn't have a problem pairing those two guys. I do think they're going to, just be working a lot together in a two-man pick-and-roll game, all kinds of assists to each other, that type of thing. I know it's a lot of the salary, but frankly, if you're playing the Wizards, you got salary to spend. So I think that the Wembanyama-Fox combination could be a fun way to play this slate. Certainly fun to watch if you're watching the games, turning on the Spurs, and you got those two guys. They could be off to the races in this one.
Yeah, if I get stuck loading up on Wizards, well, we're going to have to start looking at stars and scrubs, right? And then that's when I start looking at ownership on some of the stars. And, of course, some of the ownership will go up. But right now on Saber, 10% for Fox, that sounds like something I'm interested in, playing 37 minutes in a matchup against Charlotte. Wemby's around 18% right now. So definitely a good spot for the Spurs. And they're going to put up a lot of points. And this team, it seems good. Like I think the Spurs make a playoff push. I think they get in the top 8. Like I think they play in and they find a way in. So at least I'm hoping. So we'll see if the Spurs.
They got to stay healthy. There's some injury risks on that team, but yeah, I like the Spurs.
Of course, but there's injury risk anyway, right? Like just like we were talking about in the Run Pure Discord chat, we're talking about. I don't know, man. Between this Suns team, can all these stars like stay alive, right? I mean, if one of on the Warriors, if one of Jimmy Butler or Curry like suffer a 2-week injury, it's just going to be curtains. So it's definitely a tough spot for some of these older players. Let's get to Miami and the Brooklyn Nets. Miami, obviously, they're done with Jimmy Butler. I don't think Andrew Wiggins will play in this game. Doesn't look like it at all. Miami is clearly a spot where, hey, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, they're good plays, right? They're studs you can just get into your lineup. But do you want to play those guys versus those Cavs, right? They're similar in that 8K range between the Donovan Mitchells, the Evan Mobleys. Then you got Khalil Ware at 6K, who he's shown some upside. I think he's actually a pretty good play in this matchup against Brooklyn. And against a Brooklyn team that they like to play big, right? Like they want to go with their big man lineups if they can. So I could see a lot of big man lineups in this game. And of course, Jovic, he's probable. You got him, Rozier. I'm not buying in the Rozier chalk when it happened the other day. I'm not buying into it that much now. He's not chalk. He's around 10%, but I still don't want to load up on him. And of course, you got Hawkes at 4-2. I do think he's got a lot of upside at that price. On the Brooklyn side of the ball, I know you've talked a lot about D'Angelo Russell and got some exposure to him. I don't think it's a bad spot. This dude's going to be absolutely unowned. So if you are living in that mid-tier, I don't think it's a terrible spot for someone like a D'Angelo Russell. Cam Johnson, he is in the lineup, 6.4K. Don't know what you think of that price tag. We haven't seen that much of him. Claxton at 5'6", they'll need his size. And, of course, Keon Johnson at 5K. And then you got all the guys that you can mix and match, the Jalen Wilsons, the Day'Ron Charts. But on a slate with these Wizards values, I don't think we're going to load up on any Nets value plays, but what's your thoughts here, DC?
Yeah, I jumped off the D'Angelo Russell train, I don't know, a week or so ago, and I'm staying off his train and the Nets in general. This is not a team that I really want to play guys with when they have enough players. It's just a completely unserious, they're the opposite of serious. They're trying to lose games, and you never know if the minutes are going to go. Like, you're honestly, it's crazy, but your minutes are like more likely to evaporate if you play well than if you don't when you're playing on the Nets. So that's just is so tough for fantasy that I want to avoid it as much as possible. And they got easily enough bodies tonight to make them avoidable. So I'm not playing any Brooklyn Nets tonight. Miami, I think, is pretty interesting. You got to watch the news on Highsmith is questionable, and then Kevin Love as well. They're down, not the bare bones, but like they got a pretty thin roster right now to the point where, the minutes for guys like Hero, even Rozier, Adebayo, they're secure. And the Heat, like, they're not a great team, but they're way better than the Nets, and they're still trying to win games. So I kind of like the Heat here, man, going, you're going to get like 38 minutes out of Tyler Hero against the Nets as the main man. I mean, he's going to have a good game. I think Bam Adebayo is pretty much a lock for 40-plus fantasy points. So these aren't like the sexiest names. I get it. But I feel very confident that you're not going to be all that disappointed by what you get out of guys like Hero and Adebayo, even if they have their floor games. And I think they've got 50, 60-plus fantasy point upside in them against the Nets. So I like the Heat a ton. Kind of close for me between like Fox and Wemby or Hero and Adebayo. I even like pairing them because I think their minutes are tied together to some degree. So I'm in on Miami. Completely out though on Brooklyn. No Nets for me.
Yeah, they're definitely they're more cash game plays, right? The Bam Adebayo is Tyler Hero, good floor ceiling combinations. I'm seeing 12% on Tyler Hero and 20% on Bam Adebayo right now. I do think the Kevin Love and Haywood Highsmith stuff, they still do have guys like Alec Burks that they can slide in there and kind of be annoying. But I don't know. I don't buy that as much as you do with like they got Pele Larson, right? Those guys can just soak up those minutes. I don't know if you think it just helps Hero and Bam secure their minutes more, but what do you really think about that?
And Jovic. I think Jovic is the other guy who gets a bump if Highsmith misses in particular.
Yeah, he's probable though. It looks like he's
okay. I thought it's not questionable. Yeah, it looks like he's gonna play. Yeah, okay. So mostly Bam and Hero for me. I think Ware is fine too.
Yeah, and I do think you brought up a good point with the Nets guys. Like I said, I said I didn't like the values, but the point you were getting at is they're just crowded right now. And when you compare values on slates, right, which I think is important, these values are just not worth taking chances on because
you're paying like twice the price for the same play.
And we get have really good values, right? Like so, it's just I don't want to get behind it. And a matchup against the Heat, that's not a good matchup. It's just all bad. So, not really excited about that one. All right, we can get to the next game. I will say, if you guys could hit the like, we'd appreciate it. We got no Big T or JSU. They ditched us. They're doing like a 2-hour Super Bowl show, so hopefully you came to watch some NBA Winter Zone. If you want to go watch that again, you can watch on the Run Pure Sports channel that you are subscribed to. Let's get to Philadelphia and the Detroit Pistons, though, because there is a very big piece of news here that I want to mention. We got to talk about Cade Cunningham, right? If a Cade Cunningham misses this game, I mean, that's massive, right? That's going to shake up this slate. This game starts at 7:30 Eastern. If Cade misses, well, who's going to get the opportunity? Well, their starting point guard would likely become Marcus Sasser at 3K, right? And I'm not saying Marcus Sasser is like going to be a stone lock then, because I do think there's opportunities for other guys to soak up the usage, right? It could be a Tobias Harris. It could be a Jalen Duren. It could be an Oscar Thompson. So that's a really important thing to note. But it's going to be hard not to start. Marcus Sasser, I'm mixing up the names. If Marcus Sasser starts, it'd be hard not to play him at 3K, right? That would be a very big debate. Maybe he'd have lower ownership if this news came later. So that's a key thing that I'm definitely looking at. Of course, I think it'll help an Oscar Thompson at 4 or 5. That would get a lot more minutes. And one of his problems has been a minutes issue, right? minutes have been trending upwards, but if a Cade Cunningham missed, that would really help out a ton. Could it help out Tobias Harris in a revenge game, DC, at 5.7K? I mean, I think it would. And then the Sixers side of the ball, we talked about playing a lot of studs already. Do we want to play a Paul George at 8K, a Maxey at 9.9, and a Embiid at 10K? For me, the only guy I'm really making an exception for is Tyrese Maxey because he's 9.9, and I know it feels expensive, but the guy has just been dominating night after night after night, and there's not going to be a lot of defense played in this game. So Tyrese Maxey is really the only Sixer I like, and then I definitely need to figure out what's going on with this Pistons team to make my decisions. If Cade plays, I don't like a lot of these guys, but if Cade's out, it's definitely going to be a good spot to take advantage of some values.
Yeah, so starting with the Sixers side, I agree with you on the general kind of premise of your argument of just playing maybe one of the guys. You prefer Maxey. I think I prefer Embiid if I'm playing a Sixer. He's probably the only guy that will make my lineups. I mean, triple-double last time out, and now he's playing, only took one game off in between. So Embiid is – I'm honestly kind of shocked to see Embiid and Paul George playing at the same time at this point. But I think
they got to be pushing for playoffs, right? I mean, I would assume.
I kind of just wrote this team off, but yeah, I guess. But yeah, if Embiid's in there, I do like him at 10K. He should dominate obviously the Pistons, and I don't know. I think he knows he's not going to play many games. So when he does get out there, he's like, give me the ball. I gotta get my get my production in. So I like Embiid if he's as my favorite Sixer. I don't know for sure if I'll end up playing him, but I do like him. I think Maxey's fine, but I prefer Embiid. And then obviously Detroit. Everything depends on Cade Cunningham. If he plays, I don't think you really need to play anything from the Pistons if you don't want to. If Cunningham is in, if he's out though, I mean, sadly your man Tobias Harris. I'm sure you're hoping Cunningham sits so you can load up on your guy Tobias, but he would be a pretty good play because they're just really lacking offensive juice at that point where Tobias is going to have to provide some of that. And then I think at that point, Mango and Marcus Sasser becomes the best play, the biggest lock to me on the slate. I mean, Ivy got hurt, obviously. He's playing every minute that Cunningham is off the court and not any other minutes at all, right? It's completely dependent. His minutes have been on Cunningham. So when it's that clear of a, starter backup situation, you have to assume he'll get the start and you have to assume he'll get a chance to kind of show out a little bit. He's stone minimum, a young player, right, who's playing okay this season. I would assume Sasser would get some big minutes and honestly probably get the job done. I'll be playing Sasser in any lineup I have if Cunningham does sit.
Yeah, and honestly, if we get news, and this is, I think, an important thing to know, if at 6:30 we get news that Cade Cunningham is a game-time decision, listen, I don't want to have, if Koulibaly is going to be 50% owned, I don't want to have 80%, right? I'm probably going to lower that so I can have the ability to get Sasser, right? It's just, I think it's something to think about for sure.
If you're MMAing, obviously, you've got to have a strategy for all that. I think most people watching the show are playing just a few, one or a few lineups like I do. And I think you got to, for me, you plan to play Sasser, right? And then if Cunningham plays, then you swap off him and you make it 2v2 or whatever it is. But I mean, it's not hard to leave a spot. But I think I'm building with Sasser in my lineup, and then I'll move if I need to.
It's not hard to leave a spot, but I'll say this: people will struggle to do it, and that's the reason why you need to make sure to do it because his ownership will be lower than it should be, right? If I told you Marcus Sasser's 20% and Koulibaly 60%, you're like, okay, I definitely want Sasser. If you could only tell me I could play one, that would be the guy that you would want.
Well, and honestly, especially on Friday night, I mean, I'm going out after the show too. People abandon early. I know there's only a few games, but still, people just aren't as likely to change on nights like this.
Yeah, I know I'm not abandoning early. I had a friend ask me, hey, you want to do something?
No, of course not.
I said to him, yeah, just text me. And I was like, just text me at 6 because it's mountain time. I was like, that's when I'll be done. We'll figure something out after that. So Yeah, I'm locked in. That's the good thing about Mountain Time, even though people make fun of it, but Mountain Time's a good time. So, anyways, Detroit's definitely a very important talking point on this slate. The Cade Cunningham stuff will be big. No cheap Sixers. I don't want any of these guys. I don't think it's
no.
I think it's pretty good. Yeah, I will say the Embiid stuff. So his price on FanDuel, I know people talked about it in the chat the other day. It was 8.4K. Now it is 10.6. So that's gone extremely up. That's definitely different. So you don't have to worry about that over there being just a misprice. Benair plus 5,000. Yes, congrats. Cash those tickets if you had me hanging out with a friend on a Friday night. So there you go. But anything else you want to talk about in this game, DC? I mean, I guess why don't we touch on like Malik Beasley, Oscar Thompson, the Tim Hardaway Juniors? Would they be intriguing? They're interesting, but I don't know what to do with them exactly. I think Oscar Thompson's the best of the. I think I'd go Oscar Thompson, Malik Beasley, and then Tim Hardaway Jr. I think Tobias Harris is clearly above them because I think he'll have to soak up usage. But so rankings will probably be Sasser, Tobias Harris, Duren, Oscar Thompson, and maybe I'd put Oscar above Duren, and then it's like probably Beasley and Hardaway Jr. That's kind of my rankings.
Sasser 1, Oscar Thompson 2, Tobias 2, Oscar 3. We're talking if Cade is out, and then I'm with you, Hardaway and Beasley after that. But I do think if Cade is out, all those guys are more than reasonable plays. I still think most of them, Hardaway, Beasley, maybe Oscar are still behind the Wizards' value to me, even if Cade sits. But I think Sasser for sure, and maybe Toby are ahead of the Wizards' value. Again, all assuming Cunningham sits.
Yeah, and maybe this news doesn't come, but I think it's a good conversation. Another thing too, Jalen Duren. Listen, I kicked myself for loading up on Gafford the other night against Embiid. Just the fouls. I mean, he's going to get the fouls, right? He always gets them. Like it's just so. I want to be lower on someone like Duren, right? I'll be lower on the guy guarding Embiid, until April. And then I'll
like if you watch it, it's like the first possession of the game. Your center's like getting back down into the post. Yeah. Like, God damn, this isn't good. This is not how I wanted this game to start.
Yes, so I think that's important to mention too. I think it's something I forgot. It happened. I was like, oh, why did I play as much Gafford as I did? That was stupid. And then I was getting a lot of Gafford yesterday, and I was like, well, he's not playing Embiid, so yeah, I'm going to load up on Gafford. It makes sense. So. Yeah. All right, let's get to Milwaukee and Atlanta. That's another good one to discuss because news-wise, what do we got? It's a loaded report. It is currently Karis LeVert doubtful, Niang doubtful. I'm assuming both those guys don't play. Terrence Mann questionable. Again, guy that got traded. I don't think he plays. And how much do they actually play him first game in? Probably not that much. Trae Young. Probable. Giannis is questionable. Connaughton questionable. Kuzma questionable. And then Jericho Sims questionable. So I assume the trade guys don't play. I could be wrong, but we'll see. Don't have a strong take on that. I'm assuming Giannis plays because he sat the other night. I just assume it's like the phantom questionable because he randomly got ruled out. So I think they are going to be fully loaded, ready to go. We talked about there's a lot of good values on this slate to play. So Giannis has to be in the conversation in a matchup against the Hawks, right? It's clearly going to be a good spot for him. So he'll be someone I'm looking at. I always like guards against the Bucks. So you know what? I think it's a great spot for Dyson Daniels. I think it's a pretty good spot for Trae Young. And I'm also going to keep playing Okongwu. I feel like I play Okongwu every single time, and I'm going to keep going to Okongwu each time. Because I do think he is a good play. Those are some of the options, DC. Again, it's not a game to load up on, but I think it's mainly we're looking at the mid-tier guys, like the Dyson Daniels and Okongwus are the guys I'm interested in, and then the studs in Giannis and Trae Young. Of course, if news hits, that'll change a lot of my opinion, but what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, people saying in chat, it looks like to me that the guys that got traded to Atlanta are all going to be out. I think we can pretty safely talk about this game with that assumption. And I mean, let's talk about who Atlanta has. So backcourt, they've got Trae Young and Daniels, obviously. Backups, Krejci, Matthews, maybe Plowden. Then they've got
Ricochet, yep.
Roddy.
They have Larry. No, Roddy got waived. You mean
Roddy's out.
Yeah, Roddy got weight. They have Larry Nance, right? So he could be one of the bigs, obviously.
But they don't have a lot at the 1 through 4. Like it's pretty thin. I mean,
so their lineup the other night, DC. This will help. Ricochet played 24 minutes. Trae Young played 43. Hunter played 38. So those 38 are gone.
Yeah, Hunter's traded. Bogdanovich is traded. I mean,
well, yeah, Bogdanovich didn't play the other night. Okongwu played 30. Dyson Daniels 38. So to your point, the wings are going to be key, right? So you got Keaton Wallace, Larry Nance, Vic Krejci, who I guess you could put Daniels at the 3 and then like Krejci at the 2 a little bit more. Garrison Matthews you can put at the 3. He played 7 minutes. Krejci played 19, and then Barlow played 10. I think that's most of the guys, though, right? Is there anything else that I missed? Maybe did you say Plowden?
Apparently Barlow might start.
He could start. He definitely could start. He played 11 minutes the other night. He got 3 blocks. He got one of them on Wemby, I saw. So that was pretty crazy. So I'm not looking to play 3K Barlow. I think the key point here, DC, is I think they are going to mix and match like the Matthews and the Barlows. But you know whose minutes are going to be awesome? Trae Young and Dyson Daniels.
That's
right?
what I think. Because they're so clearly better than all the other players that are competing for the minutes, right? So those are the 2 guys that have to have big games if Atlanta's going to hang with Milwaukee. I think it's Trae Young, Daniels, and then Okongwu. What about playing all 3 of those guys, Mangone, the little Atlanta stud stack? I could see that working here. And then the minutes other than those guys could kind of go all over the place.
Also, you know what's great about that? Let's say Dyson Daniels has a big game. It's probably because the stocks are there. He's scoring in transition, and Damian Lillard is boxed up. And if Damian Lillard is boxed, well, that's Giannis is probably carrying the load, right? I mean, that makes a ton of sense. And I also wouldn't be surprised if a Barlow starts. And the reason why someone like a Barlow might start and it'd be a spot start where he doesn't close or anything like that or get a pile of minutes. Sometimes you just want to put a body on Giannis because you don't want it to be a Okongwu to start the game, right? Because if a Okongwu gets 2 quick fouls, you're kind of in trouble if you're the Atlanta Hawks. So I think you could see just a lot of different bodies thrown on Giannis throughout the game. And then Okongwu's obviously hedging off of Brook Lopez. And then overall, again, I think you're going to like these guys that we said, Dyson Daniels, Trae Young, and Okongwu. Do you have a take on Okongwu? Because I think his minutes have to trend up in this game.
So Okongwu, I know he only played, the Hawks played their guys big minutes. It was a pretty close game. And I know he only played 31 minutes. But I think Okongwu, potentially plays 38, right? If he's playing really well and they need him out there, it's a close game. Him, yeah, like I said, him, Trae, and Daniels. I like that combination. I like that combination a lot. And then Giannis on the other side, like you said, I think is probably the way to go if trying to do – might be out of salary there or pretty close to it, but I do like that stack as well.
Yeah, and JFR, we're not saying to click on Barlow. I think we're just talking about what's going to happen in the game. And I think that just shows with how bad their team is that they're going to load up on these guys. And here's another thing with Okongwu. Dude, he played 31 minutes against Wemby the other night and had 57 DK points. And the dude is 6.3K. He doesn't need to play 40 minutes or 38. If he does, DC, that's phenomenal. I'll take my 38 minutes. I'm not expecting him to, but he's a very good producer. And at 6,
if you plug in Trae, Daniels, Okongwu, and Giannis, you got 3,700 per player, which you can make work for the 4 spots on this slate.
Yeah, and honestly, you don't have to play 3 of the Hawks. You can just play 2 of them if you want, and then mix and match it. So, but I think it's a good game for sure when it comes to these mid-tier guys that we discussed and the studs. I don't think we like any values, right? Like if you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, am I playing Brook Lopez at 5'4", Bobby Portis 5'5", like the Gary Trents? No, I'm not. I'm playing other values throughout the slate. I'm not loading up on Vic Krejci. I think you could make a case for a Zachariah Rishishier, just because he could slide in and grab a lot of those Hunter minutes, but I'm not dying to play him. If I get some exposure, it's not the end of the world. But what do you think of Rishishier in this spot versus some of these other values?
I think he's a pretty good play. I don't think his minutes are secure, which it's kind of hard to play values whose minutes you don't think are secure on this slate because there are options, pretty cheap options for secure minutes. So it is a little difficult, but I think there's upside for him. Again, if you look at the game log, you're not going to think so. But if he's playing well and the Hawks are beating the Bucks at home, I think he could be a big part of that. So I do like him. And honestly, I don't think I'd use Krejci. I think Ricochet would be the last one, the last Hawk that I consider.
Ricochet over Krejci. One reason they traded DeAndre Hunter is, well, they needed a little bit more ball handling with the Karis LeVert thing. And two, dude, Ricochet is a number one pick. I know it doesn't feel like it, but he is, and they want to try and give him the opportunity. And DeAndre Hunter isn't allowing that opportunity, and DeAndre Hunter is not part of this long-term future.
I've watched plenty of Hawks, and Ricochet, he's going to be a good player. Like he can play a little bit for sure.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think he becomes Jalen Johnson, right? I mean, but he's good. Like, he's not bad. So I'm with you. He's someone that they're going to develop over the next, couple of months, and it makes a lot of sense. So. All right, good talk on that game. We got one game left, Toronto Raptors and the Oklahoma City Thunder. And, man, I don't know if SGA is listening to everyone talk about how good Jokic is, but SGA is balling. Good matchup against Toronto. I know it's not in Canada, but, of course, he's a Canadian, so he might want to show out against the Raptors a little bit. SGA, obviously a good spend if you have the salary. His ownership on today's slate, and I want to see because there's a lot of guards getting ownership that are cheap, so maybe it's flipping the bill. Yeah, 8% on SGA. So I think SGA is actually a great tournament play. I had a lot of him the other day. I think I had like 25% when he wasn't really owned against the Suns. I'm looking to load up on some SGA once again. You do have Chet Holmgren back for what it's worth at 7.7K. Maybe that cuts into him a little bit, but again, it's Chet's first game back. I'm not expecting Chet first game back against Toronto to play like 30 minutes. I expect it to be a little bit limited for sure. Toronto Raptors, they're a pretty big talking point here on this slate. Obviously, they made some trades. You got Jonathan Mogbo. I think I'm saying it wrong. Mogbo. He's going to be about 35 to 40% owned. He is 3.1K. He's a good value. Chris Boucher at 3.4K. I think he's another good value to look at. Grady Dick, I don't mind him at 4.3. And look at this team. They're missing RJ Barrett. So Scotty Barnes' spend could be interesting. Emmanuel Quickly is only 5.7K. Problem with him is you never know what the minutes are going to be. But 5.7 is cheap for him if we're talking about ceilings. The problem is 15, 17, and 21 minutes. Do we think this is the game, the minutes uptick against the OKC Thunder? I personally don't think so, so I'll probably keep waiting. So looking like I'm just going to dive into these values, the Grady Dicks, probably the Chris Bouchers, and, of course, the Mogbos. Those are like the three main values that I'm looking at in this game, DC. What about you?
Not a lot more to add, honestly. I think those are the plays you want to look at. I'm not paying for the studs Quickly and Barnes. Going into OKC shorthanded feels like a rough spot to me. I'm off. I don't want to play much Toronto. You have to consider those guys, right? The values, Mogbo and Dick.
Yeah.
Mogbo in particular, I think, is a good play. He's 3,100. He's going to get minutes at center. I mean, but he's not a play that really excites me, to be honest. I mean, OKC, a juggernaut. It's going to be tough sledding, I think, for Toronto here to generate good offense. So yeah, I'm mostly off OKC too, though. I think they take care of business early in this one.
You know who Barnes feels like? Barnes feels a lot like Jordan Poole today. Now, I know they're not the same player, but you get what I'm saying. Like, let's play the values of Toronto. The price is too damn high for someone like Barnes. Now, if the game stays close, yes, Scotty Barnes is going to be the guy to do it. I get it, but, I'm kind of betting the game's not close. I do think, like I said before, I do think SGA, even with Chet back, is in play, but I like other studs. I will at least say that. It's just, when you see SGA at like 5%, it's just hard to completely say no. That's all I'm going to say, especially with the matchup. And, dude, the guy is clearly on a little bit of an agenda, in my opinion. I think
listen, if he's 5% on, he's a good play. No question about it. I'm playing just a few lineups. I'm not going to play him, but no question he's a good play if he's 5% on.
And I get that. I know when I run SaberSim, one of our partners over here, I will get some SGA. I'm not saying I will. Like the other night, I mean, maybe I was wrong, but I limited my SGA exposure because I didn't want to have 45%. I know he dropped the 75 bomb, but hey, I played 25% and, he was like 8% owned and I did very well. So cannot complain about that. I don't think there's too much else to say with this game. I'm just trying to think like, okay, see guys, like these values, I know Case and Wallace is out, but like we're not playing are we playing the Isaiah Joes and the Alex Carusos on this slate, or the Lou Dort's, DC?
No.
Yeah,
and you're not even gonna have spots. You're not even have spots for these guys. They're gonna fill them up with the value early. I mean, come on.
That's how I feel. The only thing I'll call out is like if Washington plays 10 guys and then Cade is in, Giannis is in. I don't know. I could see an Isaiah Joe or those guys sneak in, but I'm with you. We're looking to play our values though. On this slate, we're looking to play Washington Wizards values, Toronto Raptors values. I think that's kind of the key. So let's see. Roddy said he watched SGA put up 50 in person. He made it look so easy. Yeah, I mean, it was probably fun to watch SGA in person. I've never got to see him play.
Smooth as they come, man. He's ridiculous.
Might go to the game tonight. All right, Roddy. If you are at the game, I'll let you know who to root on for us. I think that's it. We covered pretty much everything, DC. I don't know if you have anything else to mention. I don't think has any news came by the timeline that I missed. I know a lot of news for tomorrow came by, which we're going to have a lot of basketball games tomorrow.
Just the fact that the Atlanta guys are out, which we covered, so we're good.
Okay, perfect. And I see Trey is listed as available. Also, I was saying before, a great reason to sign up as a Run Pure member. Listen, we got the Super Bowl this weekend, but basketball tomorrow, right? We won't have a free show for you guys, so use that code RPS15. There'll be tons of games all day tomorrow, and I'll tell you this. I'll be loading up. I'll be swapping all night, so it's going to be a fun time. I'll be in the Discord chat, so we'll be breaking it all down for you guys there. So a lot of games tomorrow because the Super Bowl is on Sunday, and yes, we'll have tons of Super Bowl content for you. We had that show today. We had a show yesterday. DC did a show on Wednesday. I'm doing a show with AP and JT Sunday morning. So be sure to check all of that out. DC, I think that wraps most of it up. Let's get the plays of the day. Who do you got here? Who is your play of the day tonight?
I like that little Hawks mini stack with the studs. I'll go with Dyson Daniels, who I think plays big minutes tonight, locks up Damian Lillard on his way to a big game.
Yeah, I really like the Dyson Daniels call. I'm a big fan of him. All right, who should I go with? I'll go back to a guy I gave out as a play of the day once, and he didn't do what he was supposed to. He didn't kill your lineups, but we're going to Yeka Okongwu. I'll go back to Okongwu. I'm going to make sure to get a little bit of exposure to him. I got to get overweight on him. I think he's a good play, so I'll be overweight on him in my tournament lineups. Don't think there's too much else to say. DC, do you have final thoughts? I know you won't be able to give some Super Bowl takes, but do you want to fire some Super Bowl takes before we get on out of here?
Easy cheese on the Chiefs.
I mean, I'm with you. I'm DC, I made the deal last year. I was big on the Niners. I thought the Niners would beat the Chiefs, and I said, Patrick, if you beat me, if you own me in this game, I will repent. I will not bet against you when you are in a close game. You
should have said that 7 years ago, but yeah, it's good to get on the train.
Okay, but DC, I'm at least saying it now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Big T is still not on the train. Big T will join later on. He'll get there, but he's not there yet. Or maybe he'll just get punished for another 10 years. I don't know. It's his choice. But I've repented. I'm sorry, Patrick. Get the job done for me. Make me feel good. You did it against the Bills last week, of course. Keep getting the job done. But that's going to wrap it up for us. Thanks a lot for joining us on the show. We'll be in the Discord chat, obviously, for the late breaking news. So be sure to sign up at Run Pure Sports and check all that out. But for me, man, going to DC. See you guys later.